Welcome to Body by Design. I'm your host, Blue Driver, a women's strength training and metabolism coach. I went from years suffering hormone imbalances, looking soft and bloated, to symptom-free and building muscle for a toned athletic physique. Since then, I've made it my mission to empower women to take control of their own health, hormones and body composition. So grab a cup of coffee and let's build your body by design. Hello and welcome back to Body by Design, and this week I am going to give you the hottest tip on how to save yourself 8 hours in a week. And I don't care if you're tracking or not tracking. Yes, this comes from people, my clients that I teach to track and become aware of their food intake, but essentially any midlife woman that is busy with work and family, social life activities, this will save you 8.5 hours a week. That's like an entire work day a week just being saved. So I want you to think about this. If every day you think about, what am I going to have for dinner? What would everyone else like for dinner? What haven't I had for dinner recently? So there is a mental load as well as the time spent thinking about dinner for the night. Then you're going to be texting the teenage kids or racking your brain. What was in the cupboard? What was in the fridge? What do I need to get from the shops? More mental load, more time spent out of your workday going, okay, I need to do this. Then you take the detour on the way home and you stop at the shops and you purchase all the items you need to create the culinary delight that you have now come up with. Then you get home, you need to unpack it, you need to prep it, you then cook it, you eat it, and then you've got to do the dishes. This would add up to a minimum of 1.5 hours every day spent dealing with dinner, all because you insist on cooking dinner every night. Yet at work, you're always looking for efficiencies. You're always looking to task block because it's more efficient to do that way rather than, doing a single task multiple times. You can block it into one. Why are you not applying that to your own home life? If you took 2 hours on the weekend to think about your meals for the week and do some meal prep towards that, you wouldn't have to cook and prep during the week, and it would save you 8.5 hours for the week just by investing 2 hours on the weekend. And it's as simple as that. I know you're looking for some sort of like major hack that I was going to give you that you were going to go, oh my God, but I bet you never actually thought about food prep like that, because most women I speak to will tell me, oh, I don't have time to meal prep. How have you not got time to meal prep when you spend so much time every night investing in dinner and you could just prep on the weekends? Now, I teach my clients in several different ways to meal prep. My favorite way, and is the most for maximizing time, is yes, I do eat the same thing Monday to Friday, but I love the food that I eat. Everything I create is really tasty. And in fact, my partner Dean often will say to me, that was so good this week, can we have it again next week? So we'll eat it 2 weeks in a row. So when you enjoy what you eat and when you're not cutting and restricting major food groups and just eating good, wholesome, nourishing food, creating tasty meals is really quite simple. So my personal favorite method of meal prep is I actually have a macros manipulation guide within my coaching program. So what that really is all about is, how do you create a macro meal that everyone can serve themselves from, but you can still meet your macros? And essentially, I think about the protein that I want to have that week, a flavor profile. So is it going to be Thai? Is it going to be Italian? Greek? Do I want barbecue flavors? And with those flavors, what type of meat am I going to have? So I've got some beef, I've got some chicken, whatever it is, and then you prep a carb to go with it. And they're all separate components, pre-done and in the fridge. And things are made super, super tasty by spices and herbs and condiments. And doing things in this way creates a tasty meal. It means that everything's prepped and you don't have to think about it again for the rest of the week. Sounds super simple, doesn't it? But most people will tell me they actually don't have time to meal prep. 2 hours is all I take on a weekend. My breakfast is something that I can do on the go because it's pretty simple and easy. I will prep a carb and a protein for lunch and a carb and a protein for dinner. And usually there might be a sauce or a dressing or a marinade or something that goes with that dinner as well. And then it all goes in the fridge. And I use, running my own business, I certainly work long hours. I don't necessarily have a lot of spare time. I still want to be able to make it to the gym. I like going 4 times a week. I also still like to get a walk in to keep me active because I sit all day. And the way I do that is by not having to cook dinner every single night and then go back and do those dishes. It is so freeing. If you can get your head past, I've got to have a party in my mouth every single meal, every single night, which really, in reality, we don't need. We don't need the variety that we think we do, especially when we love our food. Swapping it from week to week can actually be plenty of variety. And the payoff that you get where you finish work, go to the gym, come home, pull your dinner out of the fridge, reheat it, eat it, stick your dishes in the dishwasher, and that's it, you're done. I cannot begin to even tell you how that has changed life for me, just doing that. A couple of other different ways that you can do it that are still time savers, probably not quite as much time as what I've just described here, but other ways that you can do it is if you want a bit more variety through the week, that's okay, you can still do it. Bulk prep one night, and so you do a double batch. And then the next night you eat it. So you might only eat it 2 nights in a row, but then you're only cooking every second night. And that is another way that you can save. So you're taking an hour and a half every second night out of the equation, which makes it really easy, but you still get a little more variety by changing every 2 nights. Or it would be sitting down and doing a strategic meal plan for the week. So your breakfast and lunch and snacks stay the same. You're going to have a different dinner every night. You're willing to cook every night and do a different dinner. That's fine. You'd strategically place out your dinners for the night. You make sure that that all fits your macros so you don't have to think about it again. And you can still do some meal prep on the weekend towards that. Potatoes, you can actually peel and chop potatoes. So you might have potatoes a couple of times in the week. We'll peel and chop enough for the entire week, pop them in water, and all you have to do is change the water out every night. Cook the rice in advance. It can stay in the fridge for a few days. You can also freeze rice down really easily. So that's another way that you can do it. You can have all your veggies and fruit chopped, ready to go. You can have marinades and sauces pre-made sitting in the fridge, ready to go. So there are still things that you can do that are going to save you time during the week. So you can just throw things together easier and quicker. And again, if you're a busy midlife woman, I don't know why you're not doing this in the first place. I personally will advocate always for just eat the same thing all week. You can change it up as you go. So maybe I might do Mexican mince, but I can have it with rice one night. I can have it like tacos another night with some corn chips and guacamole. Another night I might do it more like a tortilla wrap, and I can bake it. So there's all different ways I could do that one protein sauce that I did, which was beef mince, and I chose a Mexican theme, and then I can just change my carb that I put with it, whether it's wraps or rice or potatoes. I really love air fried potatoes with the Mexican mince, and then you can put some guacamole or yogurt or sour cream cheese on the top, just depending on what you like. That's another great way to do it as well. So you're still taking that one thing that you've prepped and changing it up through the week. So there still is a little bit of variety in, and it takes no extra effort. So that's my real quick tip. I know the title of I'm going to save you 8.5 hours a week sounded like it was going to be something massive, but it purely is as simple as that. Start getting into meal prepping. Whether you're tracking macros or not, I don't know how any midlife woman who is busy is surviving without these tips.